and ask me, are you dying as you live or living afraid to die? I couldn't lie, son. I heard God's son, like a calm hum. Died some, came alive some, up on high some. Lifted out that prison, you'll be sliding out that sepulcher. Crosshair on my body, don't care if they shoot the messenger. Ain't no weapon shall prosper, gospel flow out me like lava. No enemy that we can't counter, Mouser. I spit heat throughout the heavens to the valleys, from the highs into the lows. Everybody,
I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
Hello everybody. Let me say hi to the chat. Hello Sweet Dude Chibi, Jack Whiteside Person, Steve Sippos, Love Not, hello Jonaside, hi Pete Thomas, Wes H, hi Meatball, and Dragon Spotted Wolf, and hopefully I caught everybody. Alright, cool. So it's kind of weird, the chat changed where it's like at in your username, so I'm kind of thrown off by some people. I don't really know what YouTube is doing. And what's up, Jandon? How are you? So nice to see you. It's been a long time. Okay, so today what we are going to be doing is essentially this is just going to be picking up where we left off in the book, but we are going to be reading through the medical examiner's reports of all 4 girls. Yes, we are going to read through all of them. Why? Because these have never been seen before, as I understand it. These are not online, these are not in the FBI files, and these were obtained and sent to me. And I've talked about that situation in the first installment of this. That's what we're going to focus on today, because I did learn recently that the family apparently hates the book that we have been reading from, and I don't really understand why, because we are going to compare what that book says to an official court record of one of the individuals. It would seem that the Ayers family in particular has, some sort of axe to grind with controlling the narrative, but we'll get into that. And hello, Zaralath Eternal. So I'm going to go ahead and run the intro, and then we will begin. This is going to be graphic, so if you don't want to hear it, I get it, but don't watch.
Come on, let's go. Welcome to the United Snakes, land of the thief, home of the slave. Grand Imperial Guard, where the dollar is sacred and proud. Let's do the shit for real, come on now. Smoke and mirrors, stripes and stars, stolen for the cross in the name of God. Bloodshed, genocide, rape and fraud, written to the pages of the law, good law. The cold continent latchkey child ran away one day and started acting foul. King of where the wild things are, daddy's proud, cause the Roman Empire done passed it down. Imported and tortured the workforce and never healed the wounds or shook the curse off. Now the grown-up Goliath nation holding open auditions for the part of David. Can you feel it? Nothing can save you. You question the rain, you get rushed in and chained up. Fist raised, but I must be insane, cause I can't figure a single goddamn way to change it. But welcome to the United Snakes, land of the thief, home of the slave. The Grand Imperial Guard, where the dollar is sacred and power is God. Welcome to the United Snakes, land of the thief, home of the slave. The Grand Imperial Guard, where the dollar is sacred and power is God. All must bow to the fat and lazy. The fuck you obey me, and why do they hate me? Who me? Only 2 generations away from the world's most despicable slavery trade. Pioneered so many ways to degrade a human being that it can't be changed to this day. Legacy so ingrained in the way that we think we no longer need chains to be slaves. Lord, it's a shameful display. The overseers even got raped along the way. Cause the children can't escape from the pain, and they born with the poisonous hatred in their veins. Try and separate a man from his soul, you only strengthen him and lose your own. But shoot that fucker if he walk near the throne. Remind him that this is my home, now I'm gone. Welcome to the United Snakes, land of the thief, home of the slave. The Grand Imperial Guard, where the dollar is sacred and power is God. Welcome to the United Snakes, land of
Okay, it won't let me scroll up in the chat, which is really annoying, but I think Real John Doe, Scientology is a MAGA cult, love that name. Russell Cook, hello. And let me see, Black Raccoon Guy and Heavy Metal Rehab, what's up, girl? Okay, let me see. And yeah, the Aquino eyebrows. Well, I don't know if you're on X Heavy Metal Rehab, but I've shown, and I think I showed it in my Aquino stream, photos of a very young Lieutenant Colonel Obsessimus Dr. Michael Aquino. He had the eyebrows when he was a kid. All right, so I mean, I don't really know what to tell people. And he also had the widow's peak, which I guess is unfortunate. But let's go ahead and we're gonna save Amy for last. Let me pull up these other ones real quick, because like I said, yep, we're gonna read through all of these. It is what it is, and then we will move on. So let me get all of this moved over and in order. I guess I should have done this earlier, but almost there, almost there. Okay, so let me move her all the way down here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the first one. And like I said, these documents are not public. Okay, so this is, again, if you go and look everywhere, go Google it, go hunt. Please prove me wrong, because I know that a lot of money was paid for these documents. Remember that Troy Gay stuff we talked about? It's all part of this. So, are we going to find anything riveting in here? I don't know, because I am going to tell you guys what my plan was. Hello, Celestial Wonders. I wanted to be able to compare this with another similar crime in regards to the age range and manner of death. Obviously, I was thinking of the Flora 4. Couldn't find it, because of course their records are not public. Obviously, that case is a lot more recent than this, but I can't find anything to compare it to. And I am curious of people's thoughts, open to people's feedback, because what we are told in the narrative about these crimes and how intense these fires were, these medical examiner reports don't track. They just don't. So let's go ahead and let's get into numero uno. All right, so hopefully you guys can see that okay. Let me make sure. All right, so that is Eliza Hope Thomas. Let me move this over here. So this is the Office of the Medical Examiner of Travis County, Roberto J. Bayardo, MD, Chief Medical Examiner. And yes, Flora is a complete tragedy. So this is Eliza Hope Thomas, ME report 91-1465. The post-mortem examination was performed by Tommy J. Brown, D.O., Deputy Medical Examiner, at the request and authorization of Roberto J. Bayardo, M.D., Chief Medical Examiner, beginning at 9:30 a.m. on December 7, 1991, at the Travis County Morgue, Austin, Texas. History. On 12/6, the body of the decedent, along with 3 others, were found when the fire department responded to a fire at a yogurt shop. See companion cases, and it lists their numbers. External examination. The body is that of an unidentified white female measuring 64 inches in length and appearing to be the stated age of 17 years. The body is severely charred with third-degree burns on both the front and the back. The hands are tied behind the back by a brassiere. There is a gag through the mouth and tied at the back of the head. Charred earrings are present on both earlobes in 2 rings, one having a white stone and one a black stone on the other ring. These were both located on the right ring finger. There are severe third-degree burns and charring of the body as manifested by full-thickness charring of the body over the face, chest, abdomen, and both lower extremities. There is rupture of the skin along the lateral right thigh and lower leg. There is rupture of the skin across the top of the right foot. The toes are severely burned with rupture of the skin. There is rupture of the skin in the right inguinal and hip area. There is some sparing of the back, showing only first and second degree burns with erythema. This fades into third degree burns and charring of the skin. The right hand is essentially intact with burning of the left hand and fingers. The skin is preserved in the left forearm. Is also, I'm assuming there is also some preservation of the skin underneath the gag around the mouth along both lower jaws. The hair over the front of the scalp and mid-porting has been burned away. The hair at the back of the neck and occipital area is brown and measures up to 6 inches in length. Some of this hair was beneath the ligature around the neck. The ears are both severely charred. However, the pinna are still intact and are not burned away. The eyes are closed. There were contact lenses present. The cornea were markedly opacified. There were no petechiae of the conjunctivae. The nose is severely burned, as well as the rest of the facial structures. The teeth are natural and in good repair. There is marked charring of the skin over the neck, shoulders, chest, and abdomen. The chest is symmetrical. The skin is severely charred. There are no identifiable scars or trauma to the abdomen or chest. Oral, vaginal, and rectal swabs were taken for examination. The pubic hair is singed away. I don't know what that means. There was no definite laceration of the vagina or rectum. However, the entire area was severely burned. Both lower extremities show marked charring bilaterally, all the way from the hips to the soles of the feet. There are severe burns of the upper extremities, sparing the distal right forearm and right hand where the hand was placed behind the back and tied with the brassiere. There is sparing of the left forearm where the body laid on the arm during the fire, and also the palmar surface of the hand. There is some charring of the fingers. The back also has the second and first degree burns and showed some sparing from the charring of the body. Okay, that was a lot. Internal, here we go. The body is opened with a wiped thoraco-abdominal incision to reveal fat and red-bound muscles of the upper anterior thorax. The abdominal panniculus at the level of the umbilicus measures 2/3 of an inch. On removal of the breastplate, there is no fluid within the pleural or peritoneal cavities. The organs are all present in their usual locations and show normal anatomic relationships to one another. Cardiovascular system. The heart weighs 225 grams. It has a smooth and glistening epicardial surface with a mild to moderate amount of fat. The coronary arteries all follow a normal distribution and are not involved with atherosclerosis. On sectioning, the myocardium is red-brown. There is no fibrosis present. The walls of the right and left ventricles are of normal thickness. The cardiac valves all are of a normal size and have thin, pliable cusps. The aorta shows only a slight degree of atherosclerotic involvement. Respiratory system. The right lung weighs 550 grams and the left weighs 370. Both have pink-tan upper pleural surfaces becoming slightly darker red-brown in the more dependent portions. On sectioning, the parenchyma is light red-brown, becoming darker in the more dependent portions. There is no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage. Hepatobiliary system. The liver weighs 1,300 grams. It has a homogeneous dark red-brown external and cut surface. There was no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage present. The gallbladder contained a few cc's of a viscid green bile. The hepatobiliary ducts are patent. There were no stones. The spleen weighs 100 grams. It has a purplish-gray intact capsule. On sectioning, the parenchyma is dark red-brown with prominent Malpighian corpuscles. I don't know if I said that right. Both adrenals are surrounded by a small amount of fat. On sectioning, the cortex is yellow and of a normal thickness. The medulla is gray-tan. The pancreas is of normal size and shape and has a homogeneous and lobulated pink-tan external and cut surface. It is unremarkable. The esophagus has a gray-tan mucosa. The gastroesophageal junction is unremarkable. The stomach contains 300 cc's of semi-digested food recently eaten. The duodenum, small and large bowel, are both unremarkable. The appendix is present at the tip of the cecum. Each kidney weighs 125 grams. The capsule strip with ease to reveal smooth, dark red-brown surfaces. On sectioning, there is no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage. The bladder is empty. The bladder mucosa is white, tan, and wrinkled. The uterus measures, I'm not going to sit here and read all the measurement numbers, I'm not doing that. It has a pink tan serosal surface. On sectioning, the myometrium is a homogeneous pink tan. There is blood present on the endometrial surface. The endometrial surface is very thin. There is blood and mucus within the endocervical canal. The ectocervix is pink and unremarkable. The vagina has a pink tan wrinkled mucosa and is unremarkable. Both ovaries are of normal size and have a white tan lobulated external surface. On sectioning, the usual ovarian architecture is present. Both fallopian tubes are unremarkable. The scalp is incised and reflected in the usual manner. There is an entrance gunshot wound in the left occipitotemporal area. There is soot and carbonaceous debris around the wound margin. On removal of the top of the skull, there is an inner table beveling at the area of the gunshot wound. There is no subdural or epidural hemophage present. There is a large amount of subarachnoid hemorrhage present at the base of the brain and over both cerebral hemispheres. The brain weighs 1,225 grams. There is a bullet track that went along the superior surface of the cerebellum, struck the posterior, mid, and right side of the brainstem, and then continued upward into the right cerebral hemisphere, though the inferior portion of the basal ganglia. Oh, I think you meant through the inferior portion of the basal ganglia here. The bullet was recovered beneath the subarachnoid and pia membrane in the right lateral mid-parietal area. The bullet was a small caliber in lead and consistent with a .22. On sectioning of the cerebrum, cerebellum, and brainstem, there was no tumor or infectious process. Description of injury. There is an entrance gunshot wound in the left occipitotemporal area that has soot and carbonaceous debris within the wound margin. The bullet hole measures 3/16 by 3/16 and has a circumferential abrasion margin with soot and carbonaceous debris around the wound. The entrance wound this guy is terrible at writing these reports, is located 4 3/4 inches below the top of the head, 2 1/4 inches to the left of the midline of the occipital area, 3 1/4 inches posterior, 2 and I don't know if that's just a quarter or 1 1/4 inches superior to the left external auditory canal. The bullet traveled in a posterior to anterior, left to right, and upward direction. It went through the top of the cerebellum, struck the mid and right posterior side of the brainstem, severely lacerating it, and then entering into the right cerebrum, severely disrupting the inferior portion of the right basal ganglia. A small caliber lead bullet consistent with a .22 was recovered beneath the subarachnoid and pia membrane and the right lateral mid-parietal area. The initial T was placed on the nose of the bullet. Does anybody know what this means? The initial T was placed on the nose of the bullet. What the fuck does that mean? Excuse my language. Diagnoses: gunshot wound of the head, contact type. Number 2, charred body. Manner of death. It is my opinion, based on the investigation of the circumstances and the external examination, that the decedent, Eliza Hope Thomas, came to her death as a result of a gunshot wound of the head, contact type homicide. So, that's what we have there. So, that's 1, right? 1 and done. That one tracks, right? What? Oh, okay, sorry, I just got a pop-up in another thing. It's throwing me off. Let me go ahead and move on to the next thing. So, let's continue. Sorry, we're reading through these. It is what it is. I said this is what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Now we're going to get to the Harbison sisters. In regards to the T, marking on the film, Dana. What do you mean on the film? It said on the tip of the bullet. Like, it's just confusing to me. I guess I'm dumb. And I'm not even being a smartass with you guys. I have no idea. These types of records aren't that easy to find. I mean, why did someone have to pay all this money for these? It's kind of odd. And this case is older than Delphi. We would love to see some detailed reports about Delphi, wouldn't we? I know I would. And hello, Desert Rain. It's so nice to see you. Please don't apologize for being late. All right, so there's number 1. We've got that one out of the way, right? And if anyone clarifies about the marking, the T, let me know, because, like I said, I saw that and I was like, huh? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? So, here we go. Maybe to mark it in some way you don't know. Okay, Katie King. No, I appreciate it. I want people to chime in. I'm not a freaking medical examiner. I'm just a nurse. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV either. All right, so here we go. Sarah Louise Harbison. let's go ahead and we're going to just run through the important parts, right? So, external examination. The body is that of a well-developed, well-nourished white female. The body is charred over its entire anterior surface. There is sparing of the back and the buttocks area. There is only first and second degree burns of this area. The front part of the hair and scalp is burned away. The hair on the back of the head measures up to 18 inches in length and is light brown in color. There was an entrance gunshot wound in the center of the back of the head. There is marked third-degree burn of the face and about both ears. The eyes are closed. Contact lenses are in place. The corneae are markedly opacified. The nose and ears, except for the third-degree burns, are unremarkable. The teeth are natural and in good repair. Oral, vaginal, and anal swabs are taken for examination. There is a gag present over the mouth and tied at the back of the head. The gag measures up to 1 1/4 inches in width. It is lodged in between the teeth. There is sparing of the skin from burning beneath the gag. The neck is symmetrical and without scars or palpable masses. There are severe third-degree burns of the neck. There are severe third-degree burns over the entire chest. The breasts are small in size and without palpable masses. The abdomen is slightly protuberant and without palpable masses. There are severe third-degree and second-degree burns over the entire abdomen. The pubic hair is singed away. Only a small amount of hair still remains. There was abrasion of the vestibule, of the upper portion of the vulva, and of the vagina. This is bilaterally and also along both sides, more posteriorly in the mid-portion. There were no lacerations of the anus. There was a rupture across the suprapubic area of the skin from the burn that measures 8 inches. This rupture extends down along the medial thigh for 10 inches, with rupture of the skin beneath this area. The fat is exposed. There is also a 14-inch rupture site along the right anterior thigh and also of the medial right knee and lower leg. There is a rupture site of the posterior left lower leg. There are severe third-degree burns of both legs, becoming second-degree from the knee on down to the left ankle. The back shows third, second, and first-degree burns, and some sparing without burns over the central portion of the low back and the buttocks area. There was posterior lividity. Both hands are tied behind the back with a pair of panties. Both of the hands and lower arms are spared from the fire, as they were beneath the back. Both have a washerwoman effect. I don't know what a washerwoman effect that is. I don't know what that means. A gold chain was present around the neck and chin area with a gold-colored cross on the chain. There was a Mickey Mouse watch on the left wrist. Internal examination. The body is opened with a Y-shape thoraco-abdominal incision to reveal fat and red-brown muscles of the upper anterior thorax. The abdominal panniculus at the level of the umbilicus measures 1 inch in thickness. There is no fluid within the pleural or peritoneal cavities. The organs are all present in their usual locations and show normal anatomic relationships to one another. The heart weighs 225 grams. The epicardial surface is smooth and glistening. The epicardial fat is mild to moderate in amount. The coronary arteries all follow a normal distribution and have no atherosclerotic involvement. On sectioning, the myocardium was red-brown. The walls of the right and left ventricles are of normal thickness. There are no areas of fibrosis. The cardiac valves all are of a normal size and have thin, pliable cusps. The aorta shows only a very slight degree of atherosclerotic involvement. The right lung weighs 350 grams and the left weighs 300. Both have upper pink tan pleural surfaces, becoming slightly darker red-brown in the more dependent portions. On sectioning, there was no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage. There was no soot or carbonaceous debris within the distal trachea or main stem bronchi. The liver weighs 1,250 grams and has a dark red-brown homogeneous external and cut surface. No tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage. The gallbladder contains 5 cc's of a viscid green bile. There are no stones present. The hepatobiliary ducts are patent. The spleen weighs 150 grams. It has a purplish-gray intact capsule. On sectioning, the parenchyma is red-brown with prominent Malpighian corpuscles. Both adrenals are surrounded by a small amount of fat. On sectioning, the cortex is yellow and of normal thickness. The medulla is gray-tan. The pancreas is of normal size and shape. It has a tan, lobulated external and cut surface. It is unremarkable. The stomach has approximately 350 cc's of semi-digested food recently eaten. The esophagus has a gray tan mucosa. The gastroesophageal junction is unremarkable. The stomach mucosa is tan. The duodenum, small and large bowel are unremarkable. The appendix is present at the tip of the cecum. Each kidney weighs 100 grams. Both capsules strip with ease to reveal smooth red-brown surfaces. On sectioning, the cortex and medulla are well demarcated. There is no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage. The bladder is empty. The bladder mucosa is white, tan, and wrinkled. The uterus measures 2 by 1 by ½ inch. It has a pink tan serosal surface. On sectioning, the myometrium is a homogeneous pink tan. The endometrium measures 0.1 to 0.2 centimeters and is velvety tan. The endocervical canal contains a small amount of mucus. The cervix is pink tan and unremarkable. The vagina is wrinkled and pink and unremarkable. Both ovaries are of normal size and have a white tan lobulated external surface. On sectioning, the usual ovarian architecture is present. Both fallopian tubes are unremarkable. The scalp is incised and reflected in the usual manner. There is an entrance gunshot wound in the center of the back of the head. On removal of the top of the skull, there was intertable beveling beneath the gunshot wound. There is no epidural or subdural hemorrhage present. There is subarachnoid hemorrhage present at the base of the brain. The bullet entered between the cerebral hemispheres posteriorly and was recovered just to the right of the midline, adjacent to the brainstem of the midbrain and the pons. A severely lacerated upper portion of the cerebellum, and also there were contusions of the occipital lobes and the temporal lobes bilaterally. On sectioning of the cerebrum, cerebellum, and brainstem, there was no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage present. Description of injury. There was an irregular contact gunshot wound of entrance in the direct center of the back of the head that measured 3/16 by 1/4 inch with soot and carbonaceous debris around and within the margins. The gunshot wound was located 5 3/8 inches below the top of the head, directly in the center of the midline. It was 5 inches posterior to the left external auditory canal. It was also at the level of the left external auditory canal. The bullet traveled in a posterior to anterior straightforward direction. It caused intertable beveling of the skull. There was also fracture of the floor of the right posterior cranial fossa. The bullet skimmed along the top of the cerebellum, causing severe laceration and contusions of both the occipital lobes and the medial temporal and parietal lobes. The bullet was recovered alongside the midbrain and brainstem on the right side. The bullet was a small caliber consistent with a .22 lead bullet. The initial T was placed on the nose. Again, don't know what this initial T thing means. Diagnoses: gunshot wound of the head, contact type. 2. Charred body. Manner of death. It is my opinion, based on the investigation of the circumstances and the external examination, that the decedent, Sarah Louise Harbison, came to her death as a result of a gunshot wound of the head. Contact type. Okay. It's a lot of big words. A lot of big words, guys. Okay. All right, so 2 more to go. 2 more to go. We're going to get the other Harbison sister out of the way, and I'm not ignoring the chat, but hello, everybody. What's up, Lisa? I can't even go up in the chat, so, I can't even say hi if I wanted to. And hello, Pookie. Oh, wait, now it's working for me. If anybody else came in, I'm sorry. Where's JC1095? Some of you guys, I don't know who you are, because I don't know your normal usernames, because it's doing the @ thing, but hold on. Who did I want to? Mr. Crow and April Christman 7827. I don't know who you guys are. I have a feeling if I actually knew the name, I would recognize you. R. Murray, what's up? Alright, guys, so let's go ahead and let's continue, because I would like to get this over with, because this stuff really does make me want to gouge my eyes out. But first, I'm going to wet my whistle. I'm going to wet my whistle. Hold on. And sorry if this is boring you, but I don't really care. Because once we get into the other angle, which we will not be getting to in this episode, but the pornography angle, then I think that the relevance or importance of these documents will be very apparent, especially with the rumors about the girls' hearts being cut out. Because that has been a long time rumor, that the girls' hearts were removed. So, hello, Brad Conley. I hate Pookie. This is, old car. Okay, what's up, old car? Sorry, guys. All right, cool. Let me go ahead and continue before I get distracted by the chat and we get nothing done. Let me make sure that this is the right one that I want. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So, Jennifer. And moving on. The body is that of a charred 17-year-old white female measuring 60 inches in length, weighing an estimated 85 pounds. There is severe charring of the body as manifested by black skin discoloration over the head, face, neck, chest, thorax, and the lower and upper extremities. There is rupture of the skin over the left shoulder, right and left forearms, over both inguinal areas, down on the interior thighs. There is also rupture of the skin over the back of the left foot. The back has some second and third degree burns. There is also some skin sparing of the center of the back and buttocks area. The right wrist and hand show second degree burns, but are spared from the third degree burns. There was a silver ring with a yellow stone over the right ring finger. It has linear 1992. I gotta look that up. There was a yellow ring over the left ring finger with a green stone. There was a gold necklace around the neck and a Timex watch on the left wrist. The hands did not have any binding, but were both behind the back. At the top of the front scalp, the hair is burned away. The remaining hair measures 20 inches in length and is light brown in color. The eyes are closed, the conjunctivae are clear, the corneae are markedly opacified. The nose and ears are unremarkable except for severe third-degree burns. The tip of the nose is burned away. The teeth are burned away in the front. The neck is symmetrical and shows severe third-degree burns. The chest is symmetrical. The breasts are small in size. There is severe charring of the chest and of the thorax and the abdominal areas. The external genitalia are those of a female. The pubic hair is burned away. Oral, vaginal, and rectal swabs were obtained. There is severe burn and charring of the lower extremities with ulceration of the skin. There is also a severe scarring of the upper arms as previously described with sparing of the right hand. The back has dependent posterior fixed lividity with some central sparing of burns. The body is opened with a Y-shaped thoraco-abdominal incision to reveal fat and red-brown muscles of the upper anterior thorax. The abdominal panniculus at the level of the umbilicus measures 2/3 inch. On removal of the breastplate, there is no fluid within the pleural or the peritoneal cavities. The organs are all present in their usual locations and show normal anatomic relationships to one another. The heart weighs 180 grams. It has a smooth and glistening epicardial surface with a small amount of fat. The coronary arteries all follow a normal distribution and are not involved with atherosclerosis. On sectioning, the myocardium is red-brown. The walls of the right and left ventricles are of normal thickness. The cardiac valves all are of normal size and have thin, pliable cusps. The aorta is free of atherosclerosis. The right lung weighs 300 grams and the left weighs 250. Both have pink tan wrinkled pleural surfaces, becoming slightly darker red-brown in the more dependent portions. On sectioning, there was no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage present. There was no soot or carbonaceous debris within the trachea or main stem bronchi. The liver weighed 950 grams. It has a red-brown external and cut surface. There was no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage present. There was approximately 3 to 5 cc's of viscid green bile within the gallbladder. There were no stones. The hepatobiliary ducts are patent. The spleen weighs 80 grams. It has a purplish-gray intact capsule. On sectioning, the parenchyma is dark red-brown with prominent Malpighian corpuscles. Hopefully I've got that right. Both adrenal glands are surrounded by a small amount of fat. On sectioning, the cortex is yellow and of normal thickness. The medulla is gray-tan. The esophagus has a tan-white mucosa. There are 300 cc's of a semi-digested food within the stomach. The gastric mucosa is tan. The duodenum, small and large bowel are unremarkable. The appendix is present at the tip of the cecum. The pancreas is of normal size and shape and had a tan lobulated external and cut surface. Each kidney weighs 90 grams. Both have capsules which strip with ease to reveal smooth red-brown surfaces. On sectioning, the cortex and medulla are well demarcated. There is no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage present. The bladder is empty. The mucosa is white, tan, and wrinkled. The uterus measures 1 3/4 by 1.5 inch. I need to stop reading the measurements. The myometrium is pink tan on sectioning. The endocervical canal contains some blood. The ectocervix and the vagina are pink tan and both are unremarkable. Both of the ovaries are of normal size and have a white tan external surface. On sectioning, the usual ovarian architecture is present. Both fallopian tubes are unremarkable. The scalp is incised and reflected in the usual manner. There is an entrance gunshot wound at the center back of the head with inner table beveling of the skull. There were fractures of both posterior cranial fossa and of the anterior cranial fossa. There are also some fractures along the right middle cranial fossa. The brain weighs 1,350 grams. There is subarachnoid hemorrhage present around the occipital lobes and at the base of the brain. There was a bullet wound track that entered into the top of the left cerebellum, going in a right to left direction, and went through the medial portion of the parietal lobe, disrupted the left lateral ventricle, went through the upper portion of the basal ganglia, and impacted against the left anterior temporal bone. There was severe disruption along the wound track. The bullet did not strike the midbrain or the brainstem. On sectioning, there was no tumor or infectious process. There is a contact gunshot wound with soot and carbonaceous debris around its margin in the posterior scalp area. It measures 3/16 by 3/16 inch and has irregular margins with soot and carbonaceous debris. It is located 3/4 inches below the top of the head, 4.5 inches posterior to the left external auditory canal, and 1 inch above the level of the left external auditory canal. The bullet is 5/8 inch to the left of the midline at the back of the head. There was inner table beveling of the skull where the bullet entered the posterior skull, went through the top of the left side of the cerebellum, went to the left of the midbrain, and entered into the left parietal area of the brain. There was severe disruption along the wound track. The left lateral ventricle was opened, and it struck the left basal ganglia. The bullet impacted against the skull and the left anterior temporal area. The bullet was recovered from the dura in this area. A small caliber bullet was recovered consistent with a .22 caliber. It was lead. The initial T was placed on its base. Diagnoses: gunshot wound of the head, contact type, charred body. It is my opinion, based on the investigation of the circumstances and the external examination, that the decedent Jennifer Ann Harbison came to her death as a result of a gunshot wound of the head, contact type, homicide. So, one of my questions is, why would some of these girls' burns be so much more severe than others? This is my question. I think it's a little bit odd, especially what we read the last time, because we're going to go back into that book tonight, because that book does match court records, specifically of the appeal. And hey, SG Mar, sorry I can't see like your actual username. So, and hello, Alien Big Cat. These are just questions that I have, okay? Because there are things in these medical examiner reports that do not line up with the information that is out there, specifically in Scott's appeal. But this is the last one, and this is the youngest victim. So let's go ahead and let's get through it. So we have Amy Lee Ayers, her report. The body is that of a well-developed, well-nourished white female measuring 61 inches in length, weighing an estimated 110 pounds, and appearing the stated age of 13. There is full rigor mortis of the body. There are second-degree burns as manifested by skin sloughing and erythema of the right arm extending from the distal 1/3 of the right upper arm onto the anterior forearm and onto the palm and right side of the thumb and the first digit. There are second-degree burns along the lateral left upper arm and shoulder, extending all the way to the base of the thumb. This spared the inner arm area and the posterior side. The second-degree burn occurred primarily along the lateral side of the arm. There is mild skin induration within this area. There was no charring of the skin. There are second-degree burns over the entire back and buttock area and onto the distal lower legs. There is skin sloughing with erythema around the margin and some skin hardening and yellow discoloration over the back. The entire back is involved. The hair is brown and measures 13 inches in maximum length. There is a vertical gunshot wound entry in the left posterior temporal and parietal area. The face is congested with numerous small petechiae over the entire face. These are more prominent around the orbits. The eyes are closed. The conjunctivae show numerous small petechiae bilaterally. The corneae are clear. I'm assuming irises, this is what he means here, are hazel. The nose and ears are unremarkable. A pair of white-colored earrings are present on the ears. Each earlobe is pierced once. The teeth are natural. There is a small contusion of the mucosal surface of the left side of the inner lip. There were no other contusions or abrasions. There was a half-inch oblique laceration along the right side of the cheek and jaw area. There was a contusion around this area that had a diameter up to 1 3/4 inches. There is a slight erythema and sloughing of the skin along the left lower jaw from a second-degree burn. There is a 1 1/8 by 3/4 inch contusion beneath the point of the chin. There is a sock-like cloth material wrapped around the neck with a half hitch in the back. Its maximum length over the anterior neck is 1 to 1 1/4 inches. On its removal, there are ligature impressions about the neck that measure up to 1 1/4 inch. There is only slight indentation of the skin beneath the ligature marks. There is a small contusion in the right anterior lateral neck that measures 3/4 by a half inch. There is a 5-inch and a 1 3/4 inch vertical contusion over the anterior upper chest. The chest is symmetrical. Both breasts are small to moderate in size and without palpable masses. The abdomen is very slightly protuberant and without palpable masses or scars. The pubic hair is moderate in amount. There were no contusions, abrasions, or lacerations of either the vagina, vulva, or the anus. The pubic hair was combed. Vaginal, oral, and rectal swabs were taken for examination. There are numerous second-degree burns present over the posterior legs. There was sparing over the anterior legs. There is skin sloughing and erythema over the ankles bilaterally, being more prominent on the outer edges of the feet. The back shows second and very early third-degree burns. There was no charring of the skin. The skin was thickened. There was erythema around the edges with sloughing of the skin. The upper extremities show marked erythema and sloughing of the skin and induration of the skin along the lateral and anterior forearms. Some of these represent third-degree burns, but are primarily second-degree burns. The fingernails were cut for examination purposes. Fingerprints were also taken. The body is opened with a Y-shaped thoraco-abdominal incision to reveal fat and red-brown muscles of the upper anterior thorax. The abdominal panniculus at the level of the umbilicus measures 3/4 inch. On removal of the breastplate, there is no fluid within the pleural or peritoneal cavities. The organs are all present in their usual locations. There is approximately 5 cc's of a serous fluid within the pericardial sac. The heart weighs 240 grams. The epicardial surface is smooth and glistening with a mild to moderate amount of fat. The coronary arteries all follow a normal distribution. They are not involved with atherosclerosis. On sectioning, the myocardium is red-brown. The walls of the right and left ventricles are of normal thickness. The myocardium is red-brown. The cardiac valves are all of a normal size and have thin, pliable cusps. The aorta shows only a very slight degree of atherosclerotic involvement. The right lung weighs 300 grams, the left 250. Both have pink-tan pleural surfaces, becoming slightly darker red-brown in the more dependent portions. On sectioning, there was no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage present. The parenchyma is light red-brown. Oh, we're almost done. The liver weighs 1,150 grams. It has a dark red-brown homogeneous external and cut surface. There is no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage. The gallbladder contains 5 cc's of a viscid green bile. There were no stones. The hepatobiliary ducts are patent. The spleen weighs 135 grams. It has a purplish-gray intact capsule. On sectioning, the parenchyma is dark red-brown with prominent Malpighian corpuscles. Both adrenal glands are surrounded by a small amount of fat. On sectioning, the cortex is yellow and of normal thickness. The medulla is gray-tan. The pancreas is of normal size and shape and has a tan lobulated external and cut surface. It is unremarkable. There is an estimated 300 cc's of semi-digested food within the stomach. The esophagus has a white tan mucosa. The gastroesophageal junction is unremarkable. The gastric mucosa is tan. The duodenum, small and large bowel are unremarkable. The appendix is present at the tip of the cecum. Each kidney weighs 125 grams. The capsules strip with ease to reveal smooth, dark red-brown surfaces. On sectioning, the cortex and medulla are well demarcated. There is no tumor, infectious process, or hemorrhage. The bladder is empty. The The bladder mucosa is wrinkled and white tan. The uterus measures 2.5 by 1 3/4 by 3/4 inch. It has a pink tan glistening serosal surface. On sectioning, the myometrium is pink tan. There are no nodules present. The endometrium is velvety tan and measures 0.2 centimeters in its maximum thickness. The endocervical canal contains some mucus. The ectocervix is pink tan and unremarkable. The vagina is pink tan, wrinkled, and unremarkable. Both ovaries are of a normal size and have white tan lobulated external surfaces. Both fallopian tubes are unremarkable. Internal structures of the neck are opened from the posterior aspect. There is a small amount of hemorrhage present in the posterior esophagus and tracheal area. The larynx contains a small amount of mucus, but is otherwise unremarkable. The hyoid bone, thyroid cartilage, and cricoid cartilage are intact and have no fracture. The thyroid gland has the usual butterfly shape and is red-brown on both external and cut surface. There were no nodules present. The tongue is sectioned and shows no areas of hemorrhage or fibrosis. There was hemorrhage within the sternocleidomastoid muscles bilaterally and also on the posterior structures. There is an entrance gunshot wound at the top left side of the scalp within the midparietal area that is located 5/8 inch to the left of the midline. There is soot and carbonaceous debris around the wound margin. There was intertable beveling beneath this gunshot wound. There is subscalp hemorrhage measuring 1 1/2 by 2 inches beneath this entry wound. The bullet was present within the cranial vault and was recovered. It did not go through the brain. There was intertable beveling of the skull. There was another entrance gunshot wound in the left occipital temporal area was located 4.5 inches below the top of the head and 3.5 inches to the left of the midline and from the posterior occipital area. This gunshot wound was a vertical laceration about the wound of 1 3/4 by 3/4 inch. The wound was 2 3/4 posterior, 2 1 inch superior to the left external auditory canal. This bullet caused intertable beveling of the skull with a large fracture radiating downward and to the foramen magnum. The bullet went through the left lobe of the cerebellum and skimmed along the right side of the cerebrum before exiting through the right medial to mid-pitcherous ridge. Never seen that word before. The bullet then went outside and below the skull and exited the right side of the cheek through the slit-like laceration previously described on external examination. Well, did I miss that part about her face being cut open? I don't remember that. The bullet transected the medulla adjacent to the pons. There were contusions on sectioning of the inferior frontal lobes, more prominent on the right side than the left. There was severe injury along the bullet wound track. There was blood within the cerebral spinal fluid. There were fractures of the right, middle, and right frontal cranial fossa. Some of these fractures extended into the right side of the sella turcica. The left orbital plate and the left middle cranial fossa were spared of fractures. A small caliber lead bullet consistent with a .22 was recovered, and the initial T was placed on the flared lead portion. The head is incised and reflected. There are entrance gunshot wounds into the top of the head and also in the left occipital area. On reflection of the scalp, there was subscalp hemorrhage present about both of these wounds. On removal of the top of the skull, bullet holes were present within the left occipital temporal area and also in the top left side of the parietal area. There was intertable beveling about both bullet holes. A bullet was found within the top left parietal area. On removal of the brain weighed 1,250 grams. There was severe injury to the left cerebellum due to the bullet track. The medulla was transected, and there was also severe bullet injury to the right inferior occipital and temporal areas. The bullet went beneath the skull and exited the right lateral cheek and jaw area. There were contusions of the inferior frontal lobes, more prominent on the right side. There was no tumor or infectious process present of the brain. Diagnoses: gunshot wounds of the head. 2. Asphyxia due to ligature strangulation. 2nd and 3rd degree burns of approximately 25 to 30% of the body. Manner of death. It is my opinion, based on the investigation of the circumstances and the external examination, that the decedent, Amy, not Amy, Jesus, man, slow down and type correctly, she's dead. Amy Lee Ayers came to her death as a result of gunshot wounds of the head, 2, and asphyxia due to ligature strangulation. Homicide. So, there you go. That's what we have. Now, those may not seem like anything, okay? But what have we heard from the family in regards to this Raymond Brashears, however you pronounce his last name, right? And what we've seen in the reporting of this case is that these girls were sexually assaulted, right? So why would everything look normal? We know that Amy, the youngest, that's why I saved her for last, she's the one that it took 2 bullets to kill her. I expect hers to be a little bit different, right? However, why are the amounts that they're burned, besides the positioning of the body, so different? You know, one of the girls, the front of her teeth are burned away. That doesn't make sense. And do we have an exact time frame of when Amy died? Was she awake before they lit the place on fire? I don't know. The photo that I used in the thumbnail is the model that they have in the Austin Police Department, which in my personal opinion is them kind of bragging having it there. But that's how the girls were found. But Amy's the one that started to move away. Was the place already lit on fire? Had they started lighting it on fire? I have no idea. I think that it's odd that, we've read previously in the last part of this series that some of the girls, it appeared that they had been stabbed, tortured, not deep stab wounds, right? But that their clothing had indicated that, and that they were forced to take off the clothes themselves. So how would all their organs look normal? Riddle me that. It's just kind of fucking weird. Excuse my language. And yes, the parents in this case are very much like the Patties in Delphi. Yes. Absolutely. They are the gatekeepers, the narrative controllers. They are the ones that were out there during the last press conference, and it's very ironic. Here's my issue with them, is that, this family wants to sit here and, have a meeting with Trump to open up all these cold case units. And again, there should be an allocation for this kind of stuff, right? But they still believe that the 4 men that were initially charged, they still think that they're guilty. But they also want everybody else to accept that this Raymond Brashears, that he's the one that did it. Riddle me that. You don't get to have it both ways. And I'm very curious why so many of the cops that were involved in the case are basically running the social media groups online. They get very upset if people start asking too many questions. Allegedly, this is just what I've heard. Was there any accelerant found? I believe that there was. I believe so. They had the ATF come in, and it's interesting because they've changed the story about that as well. Now, see, your question is good, Love Not. Did I miss if there was any indication of carbon monoxide in their lungs in order to verify if the person was or wasn't breathing when the fire was burning? If these girls were all murdered execution style, so it would make sense to me that they're not going to have any damage within their lungs, right? That would absolutely make sense to me. It's everything else that we've read. These conflicting stories, this book that the family doesn't like, that is verified through court records, because we're going to look at the court records first before we pick up on the book, and we're obviously not going to read all of the court records, but because remember, we talked about the ice cream scoop between the girl's legs, right? And I'm going to smoke really quick take a puff of this before we read this, because this shit's rough. Because see what they've done with this magic bullet with this Raymond guy. It's a magic bullet and a magic gun that they don't have, and this alleged DNA connection. And he allegedly may have been involved in a crime not that far away in New Mexico around the same time. And there's a discussion to be had. But how can you subdue all of those girls, one person, when previously what we've read, which was from court, that there was more than one man's DNA? So do you see what I'm saying? How none of this tracks? This dog does not hunt. It doesn't hunt to me. And again, I'm not a medical examiner, but the information doesn't make sense. And why would the family be so invested in making sure that certain questions aren't asked? And thank you, Proxy Party 247. I appreciate that. We're not here speaking ill of the girls. They deserve to have the truth out here. And you don't get to have it both ways. You don't get to force the public to accept this bullshit about this, alleged serial killer and maybe his wife being involved. But you still think that the 4 men whose lives were ruined, who now everybody's saying, okay, they're not involved. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I don't really know. You guys still think that they're guilty. And why is no one talking about the fact that Bruce Springsteen's dad worked for the Austin Police Department? Haven't heard a peep about that. Kind of weird, right? A little bit sus, but let's go ahead and let's look at this appeal. So, right here, we're going to start with the background, okay? Because this is for Michael Scott. We'll highlight it right there. Capital murder. Okay, so this is his appeal. Okay, so background. Friday, December 6, 1991, the owner of a party supply store in a Northwest Austin strip mall was working late when he heard sounds that seemed to come from the roof, followed by popping noises. He looked outside and saw smoke coming from the front of a frozen yogurt shop next door to his store. Smoke was also entering his store, so he opened the back door for ventilation. He noticed that the back door of the yogurt shop was partially open, and he could see flames inside. At that moment, a police officer drove into the alley behind the stores, saw the fire, and reported it. The time was 11:47. The first firefighters to arrive at the yogurt shop found the front door locked, but they were able to open it with little difficulty. The shop was dark and full of smoke. The firefighters began to extinguish the blaze, which was worst in the rear of the shop. As they worked their way to the back of the building, they discovered 4 bodies later identified as those of 17-year-old Eliza Thomas, an employee of the shop, Thomas's co-worker Jennifer Harbison, who was also 17, Jennifer's 15-year-old sister Sarah, and Sarah's 13-year-old friend Amy Ayers. Amy was planning to spend the night with Sarah, and the 2 younger girls had walked to the yogurt shop from North Cross Mall, a nearby shopping mall, to wait for a ride home with Jennifer. The space occupied by the yogurt shop was deep and narrow. The front 2/3 of the space was the public area, with tables and a counter on which the cash register was located. On the night in question, the chairs had been stacked on the tables as part of this closing routine. Behind the counter was a wall with a door on the right-hand side that opened into the rear third of the shop. A person walking through the store entered a preparation area with a sink and table. The cash register drawer was found on this table. On the right wall of this area were the bathrooms. On the opposite wall was a walk-in cooler. Behind the cooler, in the left rear corner of the shop, was a storage area with shelves full of paper goods and cleaning materials. In the right rear corner was the shop's office, the door of which was closed. Amy Ayers' body was found on the floor of the preparation area. She had a ligature around her neck, and it was determined at autopsy that she had been manually strangled, but not fatally. She also had a bruise on her lower lip. She was naked, and a blouse tied into a knot was found beneath her body. Ayers had 2 contact gunshot wounds, one on the top left side of her head and the other behind her left ear. The first of these was caused by a .22 caliber bullet, which did not penetrate the skull. The medical examiner testified that this shot was not fatal. The second fatal gunshot wound was caused by a .380 caliber bullet that passed through the brain and exited through Amy's right cheek. The other 3 bodies were found on the floor of the storage area, covered with rubble from the fire. Eliza Thomas's body was lying on top of Sarah Harbison's body, and Jennifer Harbison's body was lying beside them. They too were naked. The evidence suggests that the 3 bodies had been stacked and that Jennifer's body had rolled off the pile during the fire. All 3 bodies were badly burned and charred, with Jennifer's having been the most severely damaged. Thomas's hands were tied behind her with a brassiere and she had a gag in her mouth. Sarah Harbison's hands were tied behind her with panties and she had also been gagged. There was physical evidence that she had been vaginally assaulted, probably with the handle of the ice cream scoop found on the floor between her legs. Jennifer Harbison's hands were behind her back as if they had been tied, but no binding was recovered. She had a ligature around her neck. Each of these girls had been killed by a single .22 caliber contact gunshot to the back of the head. So, let's see if they say anything about an agent here. Let's see. Agent or accelerant. Let's see if we have anything about accelerant. Well, don't know. Somebody else familiar with it, they can chime in because did I not share that? Okay. Wow. All right. This is what I get for doing a late show. Okay. So, there's that. I'm 99% sure that they did determine initially that there was an accelerant used, and I think it's in the HBO documentary. But yeah, this is the Austin PD. So, do you expect me to believe that one person, one man, one guy, right, who's running around just murdering people, that he subdues all 4 of these girls? Clearly, Amy almost got away. He's stacking the bodies on top of each other. Get the fuck out of here, man. Come on. And we hear conflicting reports that more than one girl was sexually assaulted. Can we get real here, please? Anybody? Bueller? I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and harp on it forever. Let's go ahead and let's pull up where we left off on the last book. Let's see. Hold on. And let me, hold on. Talk amongst yourselves, please. Thank you. Thank you. Let me see. And yeah. All right, so we're just going to pick up where we left off. And the book is Who Murdered These Girls? Okay, so you would have to go back and watch part 1. And I don't know about Othram Desert Rain. I'm keeping an eye on that because I am very curious if Othram is involved. I think that the timing of this is extremely suspicious. And nobody can really change my mind about that. Okay, that's not going to happen because this documentary coming out and then them just magically, we have a new suspect. Get the fuck out of here. Excuse my language, but this case really pisses me off. And the whole topic of this DNA stuff really pisses me off because, I watched this really interesting documentary today about the Denver body dump, that alleged serial killer, and it's a good documentary. However, how long are people going to sit here and swallow these police departments stating that they have DNA samples of these violent offenders that they just hold on to? I mean, really? And then just conveniently they decide to send it over. Why aren't people suing these police departments for not putting these individual samples into the fucking database? How about instead of running around trying to do this whole cold case thing, let's start with making the cops do their jobs. Take these samples and put them into the database. How about that? Let's start there. Hold on, let me see who this is. Proxy Party, are you the one that was talking about Danny Jones? I gotta wait and see if this person's gonna answer. Kerosene is a clean burning fuel. It doesn't draw attention until the tires get going. Fires, maybe, Snappy Dog. I'm just saying. Why didn't they sue the Austin police? Is it because of the shitload of money that they got from the lawsuit against Bryce Foods, the owner of this chain? Because we're going to get into all of that ugliness. Not today. Today's heavy enough. We're sticking with this topic. I might show a newspaper clipping of the child prostitution ring. I mean, why wouldn't you sue? I would sue the shit out of the police department. Why would you sit there and sit on samples for decades of violent offenders and not enter them into the database? Isn't that your job? Okay, yeah, Proxy Party. You seem to have a really, I mean, hey man, it's cool. Like, you're welcome to be here. Just, whatever. It does feel like a limited hangout. It is a limited hangout. And also, like, I have the emails where, like, you sent me like $1.99 to go on the show. So I don't, it's fine. It's whatever. I don't even care. It's irrelevant. I'm confused with YouTube doing the @ You're cool. As long as you're respectful in the chat, it's gravy. Don't know anything what you're talking about with the police in Austin, but let's go ahead and let's get back into the book that the Ayers family hates. So, this is where we left off, and I'm just going to start at the beginning of the page. I can tell you exactly in what order the girls were raped. First, Amy, perhaps from behind, the sock ligature used as a kind of steadying device like a rope around a horse's neck. The first man left a full DNA profile inside of her. The first man. The other guy did Jennifer, leaving a partial profile along with Sammy Buchanan's full profile inside of her. Then to Sarah, leaving both partials inside of her. Eliza probably last. Her lower body was too horribly burned to capture any biological evidence. 2 different guys. But not Robert, Mike, Maurice, or Forrest. The 4 men that were originally charged that the family still wants you to think were guilty. From Carlos Garcia and Amber Farley, a new theory. In Jordan Smith's December 16, 2011 cover story in the Austin Chronicle marking the 20th anniversary of the murders, Garcia and Farley proposed a hypothesis based principally on crime scene photographs and the eyewitness accounts of late-night customers Margaret Sheehan and Tim Stryker. This theory has received general support from the other yogurt shop defense attorneys and, to a lesser extent, from John Jones. When Garcia began reworking his defense for Mike Scott's retrial, he organized the crime scene photographs in a sequence that made sense to him. He then coordinated the pictures with statements by police, firefighters, and eyewitnesses, noting the changes made in those statements before and after the arrest. He gave all this to Farley, who created an illustrated timeline across an accordion-like fold-out of white cardboard poster boards, using photographs from various magazines to represent the customers who had come in during Eliza and Jennifer's shift. She then drew arrows connecting customers whose paths might have crossed, and at the bottom of the board inserted their testimony. The 2 lawyers visited the ICBY's back room again, and afterward paid more attention to customers who hadn't noticed anything unusual, but were nonetheless there. Within a few weeks, after paying particular attention to the Sheehan and Stryker accounts, they came up with some ideas. The Chronicle's cover featured a full-page photograph taken from inside the front doors, just after the girls' bodies had been discovered. The original photo, used as a prosecution exhibit in both trials, shows 3 wooden tables lined up in the middle of each room, each with 2 chairs pulled up to it and 2 placed upside down on top. The paper napkin holder in the middle of each table is full, having been replenished for the next day's business, as Bryce rules required. Each of the booths along the north wall has 1 chair upside down on its built-in table, and the napkin holders are full. The first 4 booths on the other side of the room look the same. The 5th booth, however, the one closest to the cash register, has no chair on it, and by zooming in, you can see the napkin holder is empty. The clear implication that this booth hadn't been cleaned, even though Jennifer had taken care of all the rest and had moved on to other jobs behind the counter, had not been mentioned by either side during the trials. To illustrate the story's premise, the Chronicle's art director Jason Stout superimposed a ghostly white drawing on the photograph, a pencil-like sketch of 2 figures in hooded jackets, caps, jeans, and heavy-soled lace-up work boots. They are grown men, not teenage boys, and they float there sitting across from each other, outlined but not fleshed out. The man closest to the cash register is large, bald, thick-necked, and hulking. Wearing a kind of Michelin Man jacket, he sits hunched over, elbows on the table, head down, so that while we only see a slice of his face, his bulk and obvious boredom make him seem dumb and scary. His partner, a thinner man, lounges royally on the other bench, his right arm on the back seat, the left one placed casually on the table. From beneath his ball cap, his shaggy and straight hair drifts to his jacket collar, and he's wearing glasses of some kind, maybe with darkened lenses. He seems as relaxed as if he owned the shop, and he could do whatever he pleased. The legs of his jeans reach to the shoelaces of his thick-soled work shoes, and he's hiked up his right knee so that he can rest that foot flat on the seat. The figures have the quick sketch look of people who are both out there and not, as if done with swipes of whiteout. Inside the tabloid, Garcia and Farley delivered a theory derived from specific bits of evidence. The unopened Coke can by the cash register, the sweating styrofoam cup, the booth with the empty napkin holder and no chair on top, and the credible testimony of Tim Stryker and Margaret Sheehan. In their version of what happened once Sheehan and Stryker had taken their yogurt sundaes and gone home, Jennifer locked the front door, flipped over the open sign, and continued with her cleaning routine. The 2 men were still sitting there. The girls were chatting. They would unlock the front door when their last 2 customers were ready to leave. The rest is speculation. A few minutes later, at about 11 p.m., one of the men went to the cash register and ordered a Coke. Eliza, cashier 13, took the can from the refrigerator, placed it on the counter, and, after selecting a large styrofoam cup, turned away from the customer and bent towards the small, low freezer to her right. When she'd filled the cup up with ice, she turned around to find a gun pointed at her. She set the solo cup down beside the can of Coke. The first time Carlos showed me blow-ups of this photograph, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They were already there, I said, more to myself than to him. They didn't have to open the back door. After Eliza rang up no sale, she gave the man whatever cash was there and then handed him the till. By this time, Jennifer would have stepped down from the stool beside the vanilla dispenser can. And maybe the other guy had already gone into the back room, where he pulled the second gun on the younger girls. Once all 4 of them were in the storage area, the men did everything they could to further humiliate and terrorize them. Since the .22 caliber bullets traveled in an upward pattern from the base of their skulls through the brain and into the bone of their foreheads, Garcia and Farley speculated that the killer forced them to their knees, then bent their heads forward before pulling the trigger, and that everything happened quickly. Jennifer, then Sarah, then Eliza, 1, 2, 3. Perhaps Amy was last and had time to react. She jerked her head to the side, as Ross Gardner had suggested, causing the bullet to go sideways, wounding but not killing her. And so the rest happened, and Amy was shot again, this time with the .380. After the cartridge went through and she fell down, they grabbed her right hand and flipped her over to make sure she was dead. And there she lay, half on her stomach, with her arm under her body in that odd, torqued posture. Although Eliza's wrists were still bound, her body lay at a slant, her right elbow pulled sharply away from her body. Sarah's arms mirrored Eliza's, her left elbow angled out, her right tucked behind her back. Did they pull Sarah into position by her elbow, splay her legs, and place the ice scoop between her thighs, then drag Eliza by her right elbow and stack her on top of Sarah? And then they set fire to the shelves where the flammable products were, and once it flared up, they had to escape through the back door. Were the scratches on the door plate from their efforts to pry it open? Carlos thinks so. And finally, the men vanished into the night, perhaps even passing Troy Gay as he drove east from Mopac looking for drunk drivers. Amber Farley doesn't doubt this is how it all went down, and she scoffs at the notion of stoned high school boys putting these particular girls under control. She says those girls would have laughed in their faces. Jim Sawyer's willing to go further, that they would have kicked their asses. This was, he insists, a man's crime. Still, the proof Farley and Garcia presented is like unearthed bones placed into skeleton shape without any connective tissue. When I asked John Jones what he thought, he said their scenario had flow, which was a good thing, but there was no way to know how the scene might have been affected by the water or the firemen, who testified they had stumbled over the bodies, and minus a weapon. Any theory remained speculation. Of the pictures accompanying the Chronicle story, 2 yearbook photos are particularly interesting. One is the 1992 picture of Robert Springsteen looking soft and young, quite alert and sparky. The other is of Mike Scott, who's even wearing a tie for the occasion. He's smiling widely, his hair's in a high crew cut, and he looks altogether okay, maybe even hopeful. It's easy to think of how they looked when they were arrested, but these are the hapless boys that Paul Johnson's task force built a case against, the ones they claimed overpowered 4 girls they then gagged, raped, murdered, and burned. The article also included a snappy quote from John Jones, who reminded readers that Hector Polanco had interviewed and cleared Maurice Pierce in 1991. My story is, if Hector couldn't get Pierce to confess, then he didn't do it. Trust me. As for Wellborn, Forrest couldn't organize a 2-car parade. So, who knows why the family doesn't like that book? However, in regards to these reports, now that I have read them, I will be uploading them to my Wayback. I'm not making promises on when I am going to, but again, these have not been seen before by the public. And maybe someone out there who's a lot smarter than me, they will be able to sit there and dissect it. Because there's still a lot of stuff in this case that is unknown. But I have a big problem with the Ayer family. The Ayers. Same as I do with the Patties in Delphi. Okay? And I'm not going to bend the knee to people who say that you're not allowed to question victims' families. Okay? Especially when they're out here profiting off of the death of kids. It's like the shit that they do at Crime Con. Like, oh, let's get an award. My kid was murdered. You know, it's gross. It's disgusting. And I'm absolutely not into it. Now, let me see. Proxy party, please send us an email. And yeah, thank you. I'm happy with people chatting, but yeah, I don't need people bringing up like random other things in real time, especially. Again, let's all just be respectful of the topic. So thank you, Jack Whiteside Parsons. I appreciate that. There are heirs in Delphi, Florida too. For real, Lisa? I didn't know that. For real? Are you for real? All right, let me look and see. Hold on, because I'm going to find the news. I'm going to find at least one newspaper article. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Hold, please. Talk amongst yourselves. Let's see. Don't want to get too into it, but I at least want to touch on it. That way it's not leaving you with, that's not the one that I want. For real. Okay, well noted. Then I've got to look into that. I didn't know that. So let's see. Give me a second. My brain is fried. I got a headache after reading all that crap. It's a lot of stuff. It's also very depressing. Sorry if this isn't enlightening. Don't really know what people expected, okay? I think I've been pretty transparent about what we were going to go over, and I think that was enough, quite frankly. Let me find this damn newspaper article about this porno stuff. That way you can at least see it. Because trust me, this dude is super sus, and you guys know that I'm going fully into this dude's history. It's very, 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 very shady. All right, let's see. Yeah. Okay, there we go. This is... Now, what does this have to do with the price of tea in China, right? Allegedly, the story goes, is that one of the girls was supposed to be working that night. She was not. that girl is the individual that was cooperating with police in regards to this ring that was being operated out of an officer's home. So we are just going to read this one little bit of this article, okay? And then we're just going to kind of leave it because I've certainly had enough reading about these scumbags. I don't like reading about dead kids, but those are the only things that we have. There are no crime scene photos. No one has ever seen it. The ride that they were waiting for. Well, great question, Sandra. I touched on it in the last episode. There was some weirdness with the girls that got dropped off and very strange violent deaths in regards to a couple of the victims' families. Obviously not the heirs, though, right? Obviously not the heirs, and I don't wish death or harm upon anybody. I'm just saying they are protected. They're very protected. They have a shitload of money, too. But let's go ahead and let's take a peek. So right here, agents search officer and businessmen. This is from the Monitor. Note the date. December 8th, 1991. Oh, thank you so much, Frosty. I don't know what that is. The little dude giving me a little heart. Thank you. That's very cute. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, federal agents and local police executed search warrants at Austin Police Headquarters. I'm going to read that part again. Federal agents and local police executed search warrants at Austin Police Headquarters and the homes of a police officer and businessman. The businessman Charles Calistad was arrested at his home Friday. Calistad, 55, was booked on a federal charge of sexual exploitation of a minor, jail officials said. Calistad already faced a state charge of sexual assault on a 16-year-old girl. It was uncertain if the federal charge was related to the same sexual assault case filed against him by Austin police on October 31st. Halloween, anybody? After Calistad was taken to jail, federal agents and Austin police continued to search his Northwest Austin home, owned by Lieutenant Del Shaw. Calistad and Shaw were sued last week by an Austin bank, which accused the two of conspiring to hide assets from the bank through the purchase of the home. Shaw bought the home in August 1990, about 2 months after Texas Commerce Bank of Austin obtained a $900,000 judgment against Calistad in a suit over a $3 million loan. It was at the home that Calistad allegedly videotaped himself having sex with the juvenile. Police placed Shaw on restrictive duty last week. Shaw, the former president of the Austin Police Association, has not been charged with any crime. Isn't that fucking astounding? That this officer owned a home where this businessman, who is being charged federally for sexual exploitation of a minor, 2 different minors, mind you, where they found videotapes of him having sex with an underage child, with a child, that he was just placed on restrictive duty. It's a big club. We ain't in it. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jim Blankenship had no comment on the searches, which were conducted by the FBI, IRS, and local police. Blankenship questioned Shaw at length about his relationship with Calistad when Shaw testified recently at the trial of former Austin Police Sergeant Byron Bubba Cates. Cates, former head of the Vice Squad, was convicted of using excessive force and use of interstate commerce to promote prostitution or distribute the proceeds of prostitution. Let's go ahead and let's break this down without getting too deep into it. Shaw was questioned for the first time by officials. He did not know that this question was coming, and we'll get into it when we talk about it. When he was testifying at the trial of former Austin Police Sergeant Byron Bubba Cates, they hit him with this stuff about Calistad out of nowhere. Kind of brilliant, but also a little bit sus. Police and federal officials would not comment. A prepared statement from the city linked the searches to the Texas Commerce Bank civil lawsuit. Kalistad was the founder of Kalistad Labs, which he sold in 1982 for $100 million to a European company. The company sold diagnostic test kits to hospital labs and researchers. In the state charge against Kalistad, police allege he placed newspaper ads soliciting nude models. What does this sound like? This kind of sounds like some John Norman, John Wayne Gacy shit, doesn't it? Shaw said he borrowed $110,000 from Kalistad to build a home in Dripping Springs. He would not say whether any of that money was used to purchase the home in Northwest Austin. So, that is just the basic. That's just the basic of that. It's very, very sus. Imagine testifying at your peer's trial. Because once we get into Bubba Cates and his prostitution ring with 2 massage parlors, you think that you're there testifying on his behalf? And they hit you with the, hey, so what's up with that pedophile that you've been housing? Where pornography was found. Because that wasn't the only videotape that they found. As one might imagine in these situations, right? That's not the only one that was found. And then you got to wonder why somebody like Kalistad, who is clearly a smart businessman, $100 million back in the 80s, whew, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. You got to wonder why they would need to do this, right? There's something very fucky going on here. And because, obviously, these children, their names need to be protected. But just like with Delphi, where so much of the information comes from locals, why is it said that the girl that was cooperating with the FBI in this investigation, and possibly just the state investigation in particular, that she was an employee of, I can't believe it's yogurt, or it's not yogurt, I don't remember, whatever, my brain is fried, and that she was supposed to be there that night because these girls were murdered execution style, like a hit, not by like a serial killer. I would highly encourage, sorry, my allergies, guys. I would highly encourage people to stop taking what they tell you to take at face value. I will sit here and piss and moan until I'm blue in the face about this DNA stuff being weaponized against us. These families should be suing the police department if the police department is sitting on this information for this entire time and not putting it into a national database. I don't care how much it costs. That's your job. And you don't get to come out here and take money from the public and pull on people's heartstrings, but still accuse the guys who there's no proof of their DNA. They've actually been ruled out by DNA, right? You still get to call them guilty, but you want everybody else to accept that this is some dead serial killer. Why? And the case hasn't been closed. People like to jump the gun in regards to these press conferences with these true crime cases. You have to listen to the entire thing. It ain't closed. They have a magic bullet and a gun that doesn't exist and some DNA. But in court, how were they talking about, and they even named one of the individuals' DNA? More than one man. And again, why didn't all of those autopsy reports show that those girls were sexually assaulted? And why would they be taken out hit style? I'm not saying it was the mafia, but this is some mafia type shit. Do we think that an old boys club who you just saw is implicated in a lot of funny money, and one of these old boys got caught by surprise while he was testifying for his friend who is also an old boy. I mean, you saw the date on that article, right? The shit's all happening at the same time. I'm not saying that I can prove it one way or the other, but I am saying that what the family wants you to think and what the cops want you to think, it's garbage. Because I am aware that the local Austin police are like, oh, this was totally the Raymond Brashear serial killer guy. I'm aware. I've been warned to not talk about the Troy Gay stuff too much. Hint. Take a hint. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to talk about everything. And I'm spreading this out for a reason. Because I'm going to take my time with it. I'm not really in a rush. And I'm waiting to see what the APD releases in regards to what labs were involved and what they are going to try to, force sell the public. And no, I'm not saying that anybody has made threats to me. I'm just saying I have received warnings. I don't care. This is shady as fuck. And again, excuse my language, but stuff with dead kids really bothers me. And I already told you guys that I saw the Delphi photos. I can only imagine what these girls' photos are like. I can only imagine. Granted, very different type of crime, but it is still the execution of children. And there's a big club, and we ain't in it. And they're the ones that are covering it up. Because it is a cover-up. It's a total cover-up. And I'm sick and tired of these families out here thinking that the public just has to accept it. No, I'm sorry. This is the same thing with the satanic ritual abuse monarch community. You're not allowed to ask questions. No matter how fucking crazy something sounds, you're not allowed to ask questions. When there are certain things, historically speaking, that can or cannot be verified. We just have to accept it because you say that you're a victim. Sorry, that dog don't hunt either. Because eventually, that's the last community that I have to piss off, right? I've been holding on to that one for a long time. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rip off that Band-Aid too, because I'm tired of that community smearing me because I don't sit there and co-sign their approved mouthpieces. So we're going to get into the receipts. You shouldn't have told me all the things that you told me, but that's okay, because I don't really care. I don't really care. Now, I'm going to end here. I would like to say that in regards to people that are leaving me all these comments about Candace and how butthurt you are, please go cry to someone who cares, okay? I'm not jealous of her. I'm not attacking her appearance, her personality, her intelligence, the appearance of her husband. Please go complain to someone who fucking cares, okay? And also, in regards to everyone who has given me shit about Paul Krasner in relation to, Mae Brussel and my Realist series, I would like to also say that it has been nothing but net from me. I'm Michael Jordan up in this bitch, okay? I've been hitting it nonstop. I was right. I've been right about Paul Krasner the entire time. So I don't feel bad about hurting people's feelings about Mae Brussel. I feel very justified because I wasn't trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but everybody's so fucking sensitive. Get off the internet if you can't handle someone that you like. Having other people on the internet share their opinions about that. Because don't forget, this is my channel. And I'm not out here censoring people. People want to claim that I have an echo chamber. No, I don't. Go look in my comment section. Learn how to use YouTube for 5 seconds. Sort to new, okay? Not top comment, new. Go do that. And go fucking look. And tell me that I censor people. I don't. People sit here and say crazy shit all the time. And I will sit there and I will argue with some people. Sometimes just because I'm feeling petty and I can tell that they're actually upset. Get real. There are some people that are blocked. For good reason. And if you blocked, you stay blocked. Because I said what I said and I say it with my chest. Okay? But if you want to sit here and simp for Candace, go do it in her comment section. Balling so hard, y'all thought I was a fucking nutsack. Dude, I've totally been thinking about, like, man, I really want to do, like, my own Drac video so hard, like, but I want to do it like a female version, but I'm not funny enough, and I can't come up with things in my head, but I mean, really. It's been nothing but net. And people don't have to give me a pat on the back. I'm giving myself a pat on the back with all this stuff. Because the stuff with Candace, go complain to her, okay? She's the one that's not telling you about Mappin and Epstein and Scientology. It's not me. You're so fucking butthurt. Go take it up with her. You want to sit there and act like, what is it, Baron George Farmer, that he's a Giga Chad? Get the fuck out of here. He's literally connected to the House of Lords familially, and he will be in the peerage. I would rather put out a campfire with my face than get involved with the crown. I don't care how much money they would offer me, but we know that the crown don't want my felonious-looking hillbilly ass. So go take it up with her. Go cry to her. She's got millions of followers, millions of subscribers. God bless. I'm not saying I don't want people to be successful, but get the fuck out of here. Quit complaining to me. I don't care. Just admit that you care more about the cult of personality than information, and that it really, really fucks with your brain. And it does. That there's a Scientologist who was friends with Jeffrey Epstein who introduced Candace Owens to her husband, who is connected by blood to the House of Lords, and who is the main connection between her and Charlie Kirk. I know that that hurts your feelings, and I know that that's really hard to accept. But maybe this wouldn't be such a surprise if all of the Epstein truthers out here didn't hide the Scientology angle. Unlimited hangout indeed, right? I will talk to you guys soon. Be safe.